You hear the town before you understand it. Not traffic, not church bells, not children in schoolyards. The sound is sharper than that. Slot machines coughing in the back of a gas station. A sportsbook screen refreshing odds every few seconds. A pair of modified engines tearing down the boulevard after midnight. The buzz of a pawn shop neon sign that never really turns off. Cash counting machines behind tinted glass. Phones vibrating on diner tables with price alerts, betting lines, foreclosure leads, crypto spikes, scrap metal rates, day labor requests, whispers about who doubled up this week and who lost rent by noon. In this town, money is never described as earned. It is caught, flipped, hit, pulled, landed, snatched, before somebody else gets there first. And if you stay long enough, you start to hear something underneath all that noise. Panic. Not the loud kind. The disciplined kind. The kind that gets shaved, dressed, and sent back out before sunrise. At first, the place looks alive. Electric, even. Parking lots full at hours when decent towns are asleep. Beauty salons next to tax offices. Smoke shops beside check, cashing counters. Pickup trucks with fresh rims outside apartment blocks with broken stair rails. Men in pressed shirts talking wholesale while they owe 3 cousins money. Women selling cosmetics online between double shifts. Teenagers learning leverage before they learn patience. Everybody in motion. Everybody with a number in their head. 500 by Friday. 3 grand by next week. 10,000 before summer. Enough to get out. Enough to breathe. Enough to prove that the last loss was only temporary. That is how the town recruits you. Not with force. With tempo. You arrive thinking speed is intelligence. That hesitation is for people with savings. That the old rules were written by those who got rich early and now preach moderation from paid-off houses. Here, moderation looks like surrender. Caution looks like surrender. Caution looks like poverty with better manners. So you learn the local language fast. You learn that a man who says he is between things may be buying liquidation pallets from a warehouse an hour away. That the woman posting sunrise quotes may also be moving salon chairs, fake sneakers, and imported skin cream out of her trunk. That half the town calls itself independent because nobody trusts payroll anymore. Stability is a joke told by people with family money. Around here, certainty comes in smaller forms. A wad of 20s, a screenshot of a sale, a duffel bag zipped shut, a betting slip warm from the printer. The first time you make quick money, it feels less like profit than revelation. Maybe it is a lucky parlay. Maybe you help move appliances off a truck and walk away with more cash in one afternoon than a week at a legitimate job. Maybe a friend pulls you into a flip, a resell, a trade, a side route, a loophole. The details hardly matter. What matters is the sensation. Time itself seems to change texture. Hours stop feeling equal. 1 hour can be worthless, another can be worth $600, and once you believe that, ordinary labor becomes almost impossible to respect. That is the first private damage this town does. Long before it empties bank accounts or breaks homes, it alters your relationship to time. You stop asking what work builds. You start asking what it pays right now. You stop measuring a week by effort. You measure it by spikes. You begin to live in bursts of adrenaline separated by stretches of dull humiliation. When nothing hits, the whole town sours. People become philosophical about risk only after they have lost. When they are winning, they call it vision. And because you are young or broke or proud or simply tired of watching other people leave, you mistake velocity for escape. The town helps you keep making that mistake. Every corner offers proof. The mechanic who suddenly bought land. The bartender who turned a sneaker page into a storefront. The roofer who hit on crypto, then trucks, then local politics. The woman who went from overdue notices to a white SUV with custom plates. You do not see the loans, the resets, the seizures, the back taxes, the nights staring at a ceiling fan calculating which lie to tell next. You see the vehicle, the watch, the booth at the steakhouse, the envelope pinned under a phone case. Fast money is always photographed at its peak and remembered at its best. The losses are handled indoors. Soon you know the town by its interiors. Fluorescent kitchens at 2 a.m. when somebody is dividing cash on a scratched countertop. Storage units full of things bought cheap from people in worse trouble. Office suites with no signs where strangers explain how to get funded, approved, leveraged, advanced. Motel rooms where grown men in polos talk about opportunity with the desperation of gamblers and preachers. You begin to understand that the town is not really built on hustle. It is built on circulation. Debt circulates, hope circulates, inventory circulates, shame circulates fastest of all. And in the middle of it, you keep changing. At first, you only change around the edges. Your sleep becomes irregular. Your conversations become transactional. You start scanning every room for advantage. Every person becomes either a contact, a customer, a warning, or a delay. You become suspicious of slow people, then envious of them, then suspicious again. Even dinner begins to feel like lost opportunity unless somebody at the table knows a route you do not. Then the changes go deeper. You begin narrating your own life in market terms. Good month, bad week, solid play, dead lead. You call fear timing. You call obsession discipline. You call exhaustion hunger. The town rewards those translations because they let pain travel under an alias. By then, you also know the rituals. You know the Sunday evening silence before markets open and football lines move. You know the Friday cash glow when even tired faces look briefly victorious under convenience store lights. You know, tax season, when people walk faster and speak louder. You know, repo mornings, when curtains shift, but nobody opens the door. You know the smell of synthetic leather in financed cars and the smell of bleach in apartments, just emptied by eviction. You know how often a town can repaint success while the drywall behind it is rotting. Still, there are moments when the machine feels almost beautiful, a whole block humming at dusk. Streetlights flickering on over barber shops, nail salons, discount marts, loan offices, taquerias, smoke stores, churches with tinted windows, rain turning every sign into a trembling reflection. Music from 3 passing cars crossing in the same intersection. Someone laughing too hard. Someone crying in a parked truck. Someone stepping out in polished shoes because tonight might change everything. In those moments, the town does not look sick. It looks determined. It looks like a place that refused to die politely. That is why people forgive it. They confuse desperation with ambition because, from a distance, both walk quickly, but stay long enough, and the costs stop being abstract. You watch a friend win big enough to become unbearable, then lose enough to become invisible. You watch marriages transformed into silent accounting partnerships. You watch parents teaching children shortcuts they once swore they would never need. The local legends shrink under daylight. The man with the chain is being sued. The woman with the boutique sleeps in 4-hour pieces. The kid who bragged about options is driving for cash at dawn because his screenshots were older than his debt. The town keeps very few clean victories. Look closely at the faces in line at the ATM on the first of the month, and you see the full economy of the place. Contractors cashing checks before liens bite. Grandmothers withdrawing rent money for grandsons who swear this is the last bridge loan. Young men refreshing coin charts beside women pricing groceries down to the ounce. Nobody here is purely reckless. That is another outsider's mistake. Most people are not chasing luxury first. They are chasing relief, then dignity, then the right to stop apologizing. Fast money becomes sacred because it appears to compress all three into one moment, one handoff, one alert, one brief, and shining correction to a broken week. What it keeps instead are stories calibrated to survive embarrassment. A man did not get conned. He trusted the wrong team. A woman did not miss payroll. Funds got locked. A family did not go broke. They are restructuring. Language becomes a pressure suit. Without it, people would collapse from exposure, and you, by now, have learned how to speak exactly this way. You tell yourself you are close, that all this instability is temporary, that one solid score will allow you to become cautious later. Later becomes the holiest word in town. Later, I will rest. Later, I will save. Later, I will stop taking calls during dinner. Later, I will tell the truth about how bad it got. Later is where everyone stores the version of themselves they are betraying in the present. Then something quieter begins to happen, not failure. You wake up one morning and realize you no longer remember what enough would feel like. Numbers still excite you, but they do not relieve you. Every gain creates a larger minimum. 500 used to matter. Then 5,000. Then a month where nothing catastrophic happens starts to feel like winning. The appetite of the town has entered your nervous system. It has made a home there. That is when the place becomes hardest to leave. Not because you are trapped physically, because your imagination has been reformatted. Slow money now feels fake, almost insulting. Steady work seems less secure than risk, because risk, at least, offers the possibility of sudden reversal. The town has taught you to distrust any future that arrives gradually. If rescue does not come with a spike, a call, a payout, a wire, a bag, a signature, then part of you doubts it is real. This is how entire lives disappear without obvious disaster. No gunshot, no raid, no headline. Just years spent leaning forward. Years of constant recalculation. Years of checking phones at red lights, at funerals. In bed beside someone who once loved the person you were before every hour became monetized. The damage accumulates in the body first. The jaw, the gut, the sleep. Then in memory, whole seasons blur into transactions. Summers are remembered by who had motion. Winters by who got exposed. And yet, the town does not think of itself as tragic. That would require distance. It thinks of itself as realistic. Hard, smarter than polite society. It believes it has seen through the fraud of patience. It laughs at pensions, mocks degrees, distrusts salaries, resents rules written by people whose grandparents already won. In some of that, it is not wrong. The official ladder has splinters missing. Honest work often does pay late and little. Institutions do abandon whole zip codes and then moralize about the behavior that follows. That is what makes the town dangerous. It tells one truth clearly, then builds 10 lies around it. Yes, the game is rigged. Yes, many doors are closed. Yes, people become resourceful under pressure. But resourcefulness can curdle. A survival skill, repeated long enough, becomes a worldview. Then a morality, then a cage. Soon every relationship is evaluated for extraction. Every quiet day feels like failure. Every stable person seems either naive or secretly cheating. You stop seeing peace as a human need. You see it as evidence that somebody is not trying hard enough. By the time you understand this, the town is already inside you. You hear it when your phone lights up and your pulse answers before your mind does. You hear it when a small, honest paycheck feels insulting beside one lucky night. You hear it when someone says, "Take the long view," and part of you flinches as if they have proposed burial. The town has trained you to confuse intensity with meaning. And still, every so often, morning arrives clean. A bakery opens before dawn. A crossing guard stands in the cold. A nurse drives home with tired eyes. A man sweeps the sidewalk in front of a store that has somehow survived 3 landlords and 2 recessions. These people exist in the same town, under the same washed-out sky, and they move with a rhythm that does not beg for sudden rescue. They are not saints. They are not fools. They are simply living outside the central hallucination. For a moment, you can see the difference. Fast money promises freedom, but what it often delivers is permanent contingency. A life that can only feel secure while it is accelerating. The town worships the hit because it no longer remembers how to trust the harvest. It would rather lunge than build, rather signal success than store it, rather taste the future tonight than arrive there intact. And that is the real story of this place. Not greed, not glamour. Exhaustion wearing the costume of ambition. A population so cornered by memory, inequality, pride, and hunger, that speed itself becomes a kind of faith. Everyone is chasing fast money. Yes, but beneath that chase is something older and sadder, the terror of being the only person who played it slow in a town that punishes hesitation. So you keep moving until one day you catch your reflection in a dark storefront window, phone in hand. Jaw tight, eyes scanning numbers that will be outdated in minutes. And for a second, you look less like a person making plans than a person waiting for permission to exhale. The cruelest part is that the town will call that drive. It will praise your hustle, admire your resilience, study your timing. It will not tell you what it has taken, the ability to sit still without guilt, to work without fantasy, to want enough and recognize it when it arrives. Those losses do not show up in photographs. They do not announce themselves like bankruptcy or arrest. They settle quietly like dust on a ledger. Then night falls again. The signs come alive. Engines rev odds update. Somebody somewhere turns $40 into 400 and mistakes it for a message. Somebody else loses a month and tells nobody. The pawn shop glows. The gas station television flickers. Cash moves hand to hand beneath the same tired lights. And the town keeps teaching the same lesson, over and over, to anyone willing to listen. Move fast. Speak confidence. Never let them smell the fear. But if you listen a little longer, past the engines and the neon and the language of sudden winds, another lesson emerges from underneath. A life spent chasing rescue eventually forgets how to live once rescue is no longer coming.